This is the Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants podcast, a show to help independent UK-based HR consultants get a pipeline of perfect fit, high-paying clients without expensive adverts, time-consuming social media activities, or energy-sapping and monotonous networking meetings. I'm your host, Nick Paninsky, author of How to Land Your Dream Client, a book which explains everything you need to know to get every sale and client you ever want. And if that sounds interesting, then make sure to grab your copy from the influential consultant website today. That being said, let's get into today's show. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants with me, Nick Paninsky. Today's episode, we are diving into something that separates the consultants who guess from the consultants who grow. This is something I talk about in my book, and it's one of the most powerful tools you can use to understand where your business really stands. It's called LAPS. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, oh, here we go again, another acronym, stay with me, because this one could completely change how you see your business. Now, it's all well and good to keep plugging away at your marketing, to keep showing up on LinkedIn, to keep writing posts, going to networking events, talking to prospects, blah, 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 etc., all that good stuff. But here's the truth. If you are not measuring this stuff, if you're not measuring what's working, what isn't working, you are flying blind. You could be wasting time on activities that feel productive but aren't profitable. You might be talking to lots of people, but not turning any of them into paying clients. And worst of all, you might not even realize how bad the situation is. And like they say, that which is measured gets managed. And if you want to manage your business growth, you've got to measure your LAPS. So what does LAPS stand for? Well, LAPS stands for leads, appointments, presentations, and sales. And these are 4 simple numbers that tell the truth about your business. So let's break it down. Leads, that's the number of people who show interest in what you offer. That's the L. The A stands for appointments, the number of calls or meetings that you book. P is for presentations, the number of times you actually share what you're offering. And S is for sales, how many people say yes, and ideally how much they pay. Now, each one of these numbers tells you something vital about your business. If you don't have any leads, your marketing isn't working. If you're not turning these leads into appointments, there is a problem with something in your business. Either A, your leads are finding out something about you that is putting them off, or B, you're looking at their information and saying they're not right for me. Next, if you don't have any presentations, you aren't moving people through your funnel, so you're getting on a call with them, but you're not presenting your offer to them for one reason or another. Something has gone amiss between that call and the next step, the presentation. And finally, if you're not getting any sales, then your pitch, your pricing, or your positioning, or your sales technique, it needs work. And the biggest story these numbers tell, whether you've got a business or an expensive hobby. Because, like I say, if there are no leads, there are no sales, and if there are no sales, there's no business, right? So most HR consultants I talk to, they don't track their LAPS at all. They think, oh, I'm just a one-person business. I don't need metrics. But that's exactly why they stay small. Every successful business, from Amazon to your local bakery, they track their numbers. They know what's working, they know what isn't, and they know what needs fixing. And if you're not tracking, you are not learning. You are just hoping. So let me give you a quick analogy to bring this to life. It's like flying a plane without any instruments. You might feel like you're heading in the right direction, but you have no idea if you're off course until it's too late. Your LAPS are your dashboard. They tell you when to adjust, when to refuel, when something's wrong with the engine. LAPS shows you which part of your business is running low, whether it's your leads, appointments, your presentations, or your sales. Let me give you another story to bring this to life for you. I was working with a HR consultant recently. She was brilliant, really experienced, great with clients. She really knew her HR stuff, but she knew her numbers. She said to me, Nick, I used to convert 1 in 4 inquiries, but it's dropped to 1 in 7. Now, here's the thing. She wasn't doing anything differently. She hadn't forgotten what her positioning was, what her offer was, nothing along those lines. But the market had moved on. The tactics she was using when she started out, they weren't working anymore. That's what we analysed. That's what we worked out. The messages that she was using to grab attention had gone stale. And here's the key point. We were able to have this conversation because she had her numbers. She spotted there was an issue. She knew something had shifted and she knew she had to do something about it. That's how you run a proper business. Every serious business out there tracks their targets. They know whether they're on course or they're falling behind. And let's just bring this to life for you one last time. Do you know why it's called Black Friday? Well, Black Friday is called Black Friday because that's the day when most retailers would finally move into the black in their accounts, meaning they were profitable for the year. They'd analyze their numbers. They knew that was the day they'd make the most sales. They knew that was the day they had to make the most sales. That's the power of tracking. And you can't fix what you can't see. So let's get practical now. How do you use your laps in practice? Well, let's start off with an annual goal. Let's say you want to make 70k this year. That is, give or take, £5,833 a month. Now, if you then need to work out how many clients that you need to earn that, right? So if your main offer, if your signature offer is about £3,000 or so, then you know you need 2 clients a month. Then you need to work backwards to set your laps target. So if you know that 1 in 2 presentations turns into a sale, you will know that you need 4 presentations. If you know that 2 appointments leads to a presentation, you know that you need 8 appointments. And if you know that 1 in 4 leads books an appointment, you know that you'll need 32 leads. So your monthly lapse target might look like 32 leads, 8 appointments, 4 presentations, 2 sales. And when you know those numbers, you know exactly what you need to do to hit your target. Feel free to rewind that section and listen to it again, because I did go through it really quickly. But the idea being that you start with your annual goal, you work out how many clients you need to achieve that financial goal, that annual goal, that monthly goal, and then you work backwards to identify how many leads you need to get those clients. So here's a little exercise for you. Next step, pause for a second and think about your last month. How many new leads did you have? How many calls did you book? How many proposals did you present? How many clients said yes? If you can't answer that confidently, that is an issue because you can't improve what you don't measure. Now, before we wrap up, let's run through the most common mistakes when it comes to tracking numbers. First mistake, not tracking at all, right? This is the most common one. And if you're not measuring, you're guessing. This is a real issue for you. And I know it's going to be difficult for you because when you start to measure this, you might realize that you don't like what you're being presented with. That's an issue for you. And yeah, that is reality staring you in the face. But at least when you get those numbers, then you know you can do something about those numbers. You know something needs to change. The second most common mistake I find is tracking but not actually analyzing. So people get this data, but it's only useful if you actually use it. It's only useful if you look at where the gap is, where your funnel is broken down. The third mistake that I find is that people tend to focus on vanity metrics rather than actual numbers of their business. So they focus more on likes and comments on social media. You know, they complain about not getting the algorithm on LinkedIn. And I get it. That makes sense, right? We all like it when we go viral on LinkedIn and we get, lots of comments, lots of likes, lots of engagement, right? But that stuff, yes, it gives us a little dopamine hit, but it doesn't actually move your bank balance in the right direction, right? So although, yes, the dopamine feels nice from getting the likes and comments, it's not as nice a feeling as watching your bank balance move in the right direction. So forget about those vanity metrics and focus more on your bank balance, right? And the fourth common mistake I find is ignoring pricing, right? If you're making sales, but you're still short on income, pricing is an issue. You need to increase your prices. So let's wrap this up. Tracking your laps isn't about adding more admin to your work. It's about running your consultancy like a business, not gambling, not hoping, not guessing. Laps give you clarity, control, and confidence because you'll know exactly what's working, what isn't working, and what you need to fix. So here's your next step. If you've got my book, go and reread the laps chapter. If you haven't got it yet, go and grab it. It's worth every penny, even if I do say so myself. This one chapter could change how you run your business forever. And if you want to have a laps spreadsheet, I've included a link in the show notes, and you can see an actual spreadsheet, what it looks like. Remember though, that which gets measured gets managed, and it is super important to measure your laps so that you can start managing your success. So hopefully this episode has been useful for you. Thank you for listening along, and as ever, get marketing, because without marketing, there's no sales, and without sales, there's no business. So get marketing.
Hey there, and thanks for listening to the Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, then please consider taking a minute to help us grow by sharing the episode with a friend or colleague, or by leaving a positive review on podchaser.com. And make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming episodes if you haven't done so already. I've been your host, Nick Paninsky, and if you've got any questions or you want to know more about today's topic, then feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be delighted to hear from you. See you next time.